Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Guys, we are getting so close to the release of MI7 later this week at the time of recording, and now it's time to bring writer-director Christopher McQuarrie into the picture. Before MI5 came out, Christopher McQuarrie also directed Tom Cruise in this gem of an action movie, Jack Reacher. Not enough people talk about this movie anymore. It is really, really, really great. And every Mission Impossible movie since Rogue Nation has been directed by Christopher McQuarrie. Tom Cruise once again obviously returns as Ethan Hunt. And in this iteration, Hunt is trying to take down an evil organization known as the Syndicate. The IMF is now disbanded and Hunt is out in the cold. And this new threat known as the Syndicate soon emerges. They're a network of highly skilled operatives who are dedicated to establishing a new world order via an escalating series of terrorist attacks. And there's a lot of people within the remains of the IMF, like Alec Baldwin's character, that don't believe that the Syndicate even exists. So Ethan Hunt is facing what could possibly be his most impossible mission yet. So he gathers his team: Luther Stickle, Benji, played by Simon Pegg, Jeremy Renner's character from Ghost Protocol. They're joining forces with a new character, Ilsa Faust, who's played by Rebecca Ferguson, a disavowed British agent who may or may not be a member of this deadly rogue nation. Now, McQuarrie proved with Jack Reacher that he can make a super riveting action sequence. He proves that he can make action movies look super sleek, just like Ghost Protocol was. And I think he infuses a lot of his own voice into this franchise, and he also combines the best elements of the franchise so far, from Ghost Protocol and the original Mission Impossible from 1996. And it all kind of melds together into what is, I think, a blast of an action movie. And definitely one of the stronger Mission Impossible entries that we've gotten so far. Tom Cruise just continues to prove why he is one of the most dedicated actors alive. Not just because he's giving such a good performance, and he always feels like he's in his element and in the zone. But once again, he's defying all sorts of human logic when it comes to these stunts that he's performing. And I know that Burj Khalifa sequence in Ghost Protocol is one of the greatest action sequences of all time. I feel like Rogue Nation more consistently ups the ante for Tom Cruise, and these stunts, they get so much more ridiculous by the entry. The scene that they show in the trailer of Tom Cruise hanging off the side of a plane that he's trying to infiltrate, that's a scene that they show at the very beginning of Rogue Nation. And some people may be concerned that this movie blew its load way too early, because the plane sequence, for my money, is the most iconic action sequence that you get out of Rogue Nation. But I think across the board, you have a perfect blend of stealthy spy action along with the explosive, death-defying leaps of logic. I mean, when you contrast two of these scenes together, take the fight sequence at the Vienna Opera, which is taking place in almost complete silence. Not complete silence, because there's a dude on stage singing, but God, I couldn't imagine. Being in this action sequence, I would not want to break the illusion that this is theater. I agree with Hunt. I would want to make sure this is as quiet as possible. They get in and out of there, and those people got their money's worth. But by comparison, it is a perfect mix. You have that stealthy action, but then you have such a riveting motorcycle chase. Probably one of the best motorcycle chases you will ever see. And once again, Tom Cruise is not pulling any punches. He's doing all of his own stunts here, and it is phenomenal work across the board. I mean, he gives a great performance. Everybody else they got here, Simon Pegg is phenomenal in this movie. Like, when the bomb is attached to him, like, that's probably some of the best I've seen Simon Pegg, like, ever. I was so happy to see Ving Rhames back as Luther Stickle, getting more of a spotlight than he did in the brief appearance he had in Ghost Protocol. And I absolutely love seeing how this friendship between him and Ethan Hunt has evolved. It's almost like he is so overly protective of Hunt. It's a legitimate brotherhood here in the IMF. Ving Rhames, really freaking good. Jeremy Renner is awesome in this movie. Alec Baldwin, say what you want about him now, gives a really good performance here, and he provides a great contrast for the IMF. Rebecca Ferguson, I feel like, steals the entire movie. She is such a badass. Wasn't really a known commodity before Rogue Nation came out, and this was her opportunity to shine, and she freaking brought it, man. She hasn't left the franchise since then. She's going to be in Dead Reckoning Part 1, probably in a key role, and she's always a welcome addition to these later Mission Impossible movies. This whole movie, action sequence-wise, performance-wise, direction, cinematography, Really freaking awesome stuff. Now, I've said in the past that the Mission Impossible villains are not the most compelling creatures walking the earth. Philip Seymour Hoffman from MI3 is easily the best up to this point in this retro. I will say the villain is a little bit stronger here than he was in Ghost Protocol, but then again, I still sit here and claim that the situation in Ghost Protocol is the villain and not so much the terrorists. But I will say it definitely feels, and when it comes to the human versus human aspect, getting the villain in Rogue Nation is definitely more satisfying. My main issue with Rogue Nation actually kind of boils down to when you compare it to Ghost Protocol. And this, honestly, when it comes to preference between those two entries, it's going to come down to personal preference. I just personally find the pacing of Ghost Protocol much more manageable. Because not like it's bad in Rogue Nation, you get a lot more of that espionage spy discussion interspliced between the action. But I just think, in general, Ghost Protocol is a much easier movie to sit through. It's not to say that you don't like watching the team element, but it just feels to me like there's something more worth fighting for in Ghost Protocol. Because in MI4, that's basically just fighting for the very existence of the IMF and basically proving and validating that they're worthy. MI5, they don't really need to prove that they're worthy of basically going out and saving the world. They have to go out and basically prove that this terrorist group exists. That's it. I'm not knocking Rogue Nation at all. This is just a little personal nitpick that I have with it, especially when you compare it to Ghost Protocol. Aside from that, guys, this is a damn good entry in this franchise. A lot of people might consider it to be the best fifth entry in any franchise. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix has something to say about that. But I absolutely adore this movie. Every actor came to play. Tom Cruise continues to defy all sorts of death. And Christopher McQuarrie was just getting started injecting a badass voice into this franchise that really needed reinvigoration. I'm going to give Mission Impossible Rogue Nation an A. I told you guys, MI4 until the present, this is where it gets really freaking badass. And stay tuned for my next entry in this series, what some may argue is the best out of all of them, Mission Impossible Fallout. Some have called this one of the best action movies of the last decade. And man, oh man, I can't wait to revisit it with you guys. Let me know what you thought of Rogue Nation down in the comments section below. Is this your favorite Mission Impossible entry so far? Is it Ghost Protocol? Is it Fallout? That's what's so great about this franchise. I feel like you could make legitimate arguments for each one out of those last three movies so far. But guys, I love discussing all new things in movies and entertainment. All things Mission Impossible leading up to Dead Reckoning Part 1. You're going to find fun discussion of all that jazz right here on my channel. So please do consider becoming a subscriber and tap on that like button. Really helps continue to grow this community that is already so freaking awesome, guys. Y'all are the best. Stay tuned for more videos very soon. And with all that being said, back talk commence.